Hello, you have learned a little bit about plagiarism and ways to avoid that, which are to summarize your information, to paraphrase your information, or to directly quote your information. And in today's video, we are just going to practice taking a paragraph and turning it into a summary, and then a paraphrase, and then directly quoting it. So let's start with a summary, and before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and read this paragraph to you. Walt Disney was never one to rest or stand still. He had long thought of producing feature-length animated films in addition to the shorts. In 1934, he began work on a version of the classic fairy tale Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, a project that required great organization and coordination of studio talent and a task for which Disney possessed a unique capacity. So remember, paraphrasing is taking a big piece of information and turning it into a very small sentence, or maybe a few sentences depending on how much you're summarizing. So let's say you really like a paragraph, or you really like several pages of a book, but you don't think that you need to have every single detail of that paragraph or of those pages. You can take that information and put it into a smaller form, and that is going to be a summary. So I have right here a summary of this information that I am going to share with you. Disney's strong work ethic and careful planning helped him create the animated feature film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It tells us the gist of this paragraph without getting into all of those details. Now, a paraphrase is when you read a piece of information and you want to include those details, but you can't just quote the author directly unless you put big quotations around that. And if you turn in a paper with just pages on pages of direct quotes, then you are not going to do very well. So you want to make sure you're taking the information that you're reading and putting it into your own words. So here is an example of a paraphrase. We have Walt Disney always kept busy. Disney wanted to produce long animated films for a while. He started working on Snow White in 1934. This film showed Disney's impressive organization and talents. So now here we have the gist of what this paragraph is saying. We haven't left out any details, but it's put into my own words. Last but not least is the quote. And when we are using quotes, we really want to make sure that we are not quoting just any old information that we find. We want it to be meaningful and impactful. So an opportunity for me to quote would be probably a direct quote from Walt Disney, or maybe if one of his friends or coworkers said something very powerful about him. But in this particular paragraph we have here, we really would not use a direct quote. You're going to want to summarize or paraphrase information like this. That being said, I do want you to see how you would punctuate it. So if you decide to directly quote, you can copy and paste it just like what I am doing right now. And you are going to make sure you put quotation marks around that. And then before your period, you're going to put parentheses and tell me what source or the author. So for me, right now, this source is Encyclopedia Britannica. And I'm going to put that in there. If it's your author, then you would put your author's last name. And we'll talk a little bit more about specific in-text citations, which is what this is. But for right now, on your note facts cards, you can just go ahead and put it in a quote. And then in the parentheses there, you can write the source that you got it from. And then you are going to be referring back to your bibliography once you get started on your paper to look back at these in-text citations. Okay, happy note facting.